In the previous videos, we've dealt with whole numbers and also with single and double precision numbers. So most recently, of course, we were dealing with the floating point numbers. In this video, we're going to talk about two additional primitive types in Java, the char, but also the boolean primitive types. Now, as you can see, I've already created a new project on screen and I've called it char and boolean. And I also used the create template option so that we've got a class and a main method to use. So go ahead and do that now if you're following along. So I'm going to start by deleting this comment, and I'm going to tab over, we'll press enter there, and you can see we've been indented by IntelliJ. And let's define our first char variable. So I'm going to type char, C-H-A-R, space, my char is equal to, then single quotes, and then a letter. I'm going to put the letter D there. That could be any character, letter or number, and other characters like an exclamation mark, a hash, an @ sign, and so on, and a semicolon to complete the line. Now, the char is different to a string. Now, if you recall in the previous videos, you've seen we've used literal strings, and that's why we've typed some text in double quotes. We haven't really used a string variable yet, but we'll be doing that in upcoming videos. So char is similar to the string in one sense, in that it can store characters, but in this case, it can only store a single character. So if we go back and try and add a second character here, like another D, you may not get an immediate error until you press enter, but you can see there now, too many characters in character literal. So it is literally only allowing us to actually save one character. So I'll just delete that to make it valid. So you might be wondering now, like just how useful is that? Why would you want to use a variable that only allows you to store one character? Well, one example might be to store the last key pressed by a user in a game. And there could be other scenarios where you just wanted to keep the last key press or just the last single digit that's been used in a menu option or something along those lines. Now, chars were much more relevant when Java was released in the late 1990s compared to today, with much faster computers that have got lots more memory. So these days you don't need to focus so much on saving memory, because another good use for chars would be to store data in arrays. But again, we haven't talked about arrays yet in the course, so we'll talk more about that a bit later. For now though, keep in mind that if you're going to be using a char, you can literally only store a single character in a single char variable. Now you might be looking at that thinking that it can only save one character, so therefore it must only occupy a single byte in memory because it's again one letter or digit, one character if you will, that can be stored in it. Well, it turns out in terms of storage that's not the case. So a char primitive type in Java occupies 2 bytes of memory or 16 bits and thus has a width of 16, and I know we've been talking about width in other videos. The reason that it's not just a single byte is that it allows you to store Unicode characters. So Unicode is an international encoding standard for use with different languages and scripts, by which each letter, digit or symbol is assigned a unique numeric value that applies across different platforms and programs. Now in the English alphabet, we've got the letters A through Z, meaning only 26 characters are needed in total to represent the entire English alphabet, but other languages need more characters and often a lot more. Now Unicode was developed to allow us to represent these languages in a common way on computers. So the way that this works and equates back to the char variable in Java is that it uses a combination of the 2 bytes that it's taking up in memory, and as a result it can represent any one of 65,535 different types of characters. So it's quite flexible with those 2 bytes. So to see that in operation, let's swing back to a browser. Alright, so I'm going to go to a website called unicode-table.com. Alright, now you can see there that we've got a lot of symbols on the screen there. And if I scroll down, lots of ads there as well, but unfortunately, you can scroll down, you can see there's lots of different symbols, and these are all Unicode characters. And you can see there's a staggering amount of them. I'll just give it time to load. Pages and pages, and as I'm scrolling down, it's actually generating more. So I'll go back up to the top again, just to the first letters there. Now notice that the letter D is on the screen there. And notice that's on the 4th row, and it's actually starting on the 4th column. So to the left of that row containing the @ sign and ABCD, notice that it's got 0040, and in the column above the letter D, it's got the number 4. So a Unicode character is comprised of a code that we key into IntelliJ. So to do that now, in this case, we're going to type in 004, and if we were using the @ character, we would leave it at 0, because that would be 0040, but because it's the D, we replace the 0, this is the ending 0 after 0040, with the letter in the column for D. So you can see that's at the top of the screen, it's 4. So therefore the code we need is 0044. So if we go back into IntelliJ, and we can actually type that Unicode character in. So we can type char, my Unicode is equal to, now put that single quotes as we did before, but this time, because we're putting in a Unicode character, we need to put a \u, then those 4 digits. In this case, it was 0044. All right, so then I go to the end of the line and press enter there. Now we're going to print out the values. So let's do that. We'll do an S out for my char. Then we'll do an S out again for my Unicode. And let's actually run this program just to make sure that it's actually working okay. Now you can see that we've got D printing out twice in our output window. So clearly the first representation on line 7 is for a letter D, and we type that in, but the Unicode character, if we were using a Unicode convention to assign to our character, is \u, which tells the Java compiler that it's a Unicode character, and then the code that you saw me come up with. So we got to the same result by doing that. So let's just find one other character to make sure that it's working. And we'll go back to our Unicode table, and we'll come down here to this one here, and you can see the row there with the copyright symbol. So let's grab the code for that one. So that's going to be 00A, and there's the 9, which is above the copyright, so it's going to be 00A9. So let's go back to our code again. We'll define another one. We'll do a char, my copyright. Char is equal to, then we now single quotes, semicolon to the end of the line. I'm going to do a \u 00A9 at the end of the line, and then we'll do an S out again. My copyright char, and let's see whether that works. And there you can see on the screen there the copyright character. So that's how to use Unicode if you're wanting to put that into a char, like as we've done here. And that's literally it for the char. We'll talk more about this later when we get to arrays, but for now, if you're needing to use a char, that's how you use one, and you now know also how to use Unicode. All right, now that's the second variable we want to talk about is the boolean. So a boolean value allows for 2 choices, true or false, yes or no, 1 or 0. In Java terms, we've got a boolean primitive type, and it can be set to 2 values only, either true or false. Now booleans are pretty useful in Java and most programming languages, and you will use them a lot when you're programming. So let's go back to the code. So what we want to do now is create a couple of boolean variables. Let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to type boolean. We'll call the first one my true boolean value. And we'll assign that to be true. And we just type true in lowercase with a lowercase t and enter there. And we'll do the same on the next line. My false boolean value is equal to false. So it can have 1 or 2 values, either be true or either be false. So what would be a practical example of using a boolean in a program? Well, let's just say you wanted to know whether a particular customer was over the age of 21 or not. So you might create a boolean like this. You type boolean, and you would type the variable name to be a question. So you type boolean is customer over 18. Actually, I said 21, so let's go back and do that. 21. So is customer over 21. We can assign that equal to true. So you can see there what we've done is the variable name is a question, is the customer over 21, and we've assigned the value of true to that, meaning that of course in this particular case, the customer is over 21. And again, you'll see that fairly often with booleans, they will use the word is, and then a question to make it very intuitive as to what that variable is actually tracking. And just a reminder that in general with variable names, we'll be talking about those and the right and best practices for naming variables, classes, and methods as well, but more on that when we get to that stage in the course. And in terms of the boolean, you'll see practical applications for that primitive type once we start tackling conditional logic. All right, so that's the 8 primitive types we've now covered, and in the next video we're going to have a bit of a recap of those 8 data types. So you know already now that they're called primitive types, so we're going to go over them again in the next video and then start discussing after that a special data type in Java that's called a string. Now you've seen a literal value of a string, and that's showing up whenever you've typed something or seen me type something in double quotes. That's a literal string. But we're going to start also working with this data type string in more detail as well. So actually creating variables of type string. So let's move on now to the next video.